Yeah.
You're in sunny San Diego.
Yeah. How's life in San Diego? Sun shining brightly there behind you.
Yeah, it's
great.
nice.
Yeah.
It's nice. Yeah. Yeah. I used to, when I lived in Montreal, I used to tell people, winter would last a long time.
Yeah.
And you move here, you tell people, to move from Montreal to San Diego takes you about 3 months to adjust.
Yeah.
To go the opposite way, it takes you about 3 years.
Wow.
Oh, good stuff. Hey, Carl, before we start talking about your Murderabilia, your novel, tell us a bit about yourself, your background, banking background, isn't it?
Yeah. I go back even farther. I grew up in Cleveland, and I was part of a Christian Science family, which figures in the book. And, this is a religion that believes that you can heal with God your illnesses as well as any frame of mind. So I grew up there. And then I ended up going, to university after that. And then things got a little wilder and, traveled a lot in Latin America and then went into my banking career. And I did a lot of international travel with a bank out of Chicago for, 12 years. And I did a lot of work in Colombia, Venezuela, Mexico, Brazil. And then my wife got offered a job with McGill University in Montreal. So we went there, and I thought it was great. But, I was able to pick up French, and that helped a lot. And we raised our kids there. All the time I was writing, but not obviously getting published. We moved back to San Diego when she got offered a job to teach at University of California here. And I caught on with some banks, including the private banking industry.
Carl, can I ask, what is a private bank? What distinguishes that from a public bank like Barclays and NatWest, UK
Well,
banks?
they've all got private banking divisions within them. And this is the part of banking that deals with high net worth families and individuals. Okay. So, they're offering them investment management, all kinds of add-on services just for a very wealthy clientele. And you can imagine with the climate in San Diego, there are a fair number of people that are very wealthy here and a lot of banks chasing them, including Barclays, Standard Chartered, and everybody else. Yeah.
I was going to ask, how did a banker get involved with writing about serial killers? But you've been writing for a long time by the sounds of it. So you were writing probably before you became a banker, were you?
No. I wanted to be a musician before I became a banker.
Oh, right.
And I was a musician and wrote songs in high school. And then, I went to university and studied economics. And then I gave my parents the good news that after I graduated, I wanted to be a musician. They were not thrilled, but I studied classical guitar and some composition after that, and then realized I was decent, but I was not that good. So then I started writing from there. And really, about the time our kids were born more than 30 years ago. So.
Okay. Did you have aspirations then of becoming a big music star, pop star?
Yeah. I was going to be the next Paul Simon or Art Garfunkel, and I wasn't even Art Garfunkel. My parents were right, and this is a story in itself. Studying in Colombia when I broke the news, I'd spent a year studying in Colombia. They came to visit me. We'd just gone to see this movie on Lenny Bruce, and we were all having dinner. And then I said, what I really want to do is after I graduate, I want to be a musician. And, my mother just about had a heart attack right there. And she thought I was going to be a drug addict, just like Lenny Bruce. and in Christian Science, where mind is everything. If you have the wrong thoughts in your mind, you'll get physically ill. If you have cancer, it's because you have the wrong thoughts.
Yeah.
So, there's a real threat that I could have killed my mother.
Okay. How strict was it? Are they the Christian Scientists? Are they against modern medicine? Against you getting treatment in a hospital?
Not so much anymore. What they used to be, yeah, yeah. And my parents were never that fundamentalist. They took us to doctors, but we just weren't supposed to tell anyone at church about it. and my mother, she'd buy the medicine and then she'd hide it in a brown paper bag up in the cabinets in the kitchen. So nobody could see it. Once they don't believe in alcohol, obviously, or even coffee, but I knew a lot of Christian scientists that were addicted to diet soft drinks with all kinds of caffeine. And once they went to a party and they won a door prize with a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And we thought, oh, well, we better taste it. I must have been 10 at the time. And they thought, well, it must be a good wine. It was a door prize. So they didn't have a wine opener. So they had to dig out the cork with a knife. And then we each had a teaspoonful. And we just thought it was awful, just awful.
Amazing.
But I've gotten over that.
So your book's called Murderabilia.
Yeah.
Now Murderabilia means, or is the same as collectibles produced by murderers for sale. I think it is something like that. So
yeah,
why did you go with that title? Is that what it's loosely based on, or is it a bit more in depth than that?
No, it's a bit more in depth than that. Some things happened. Because when I thought of the book, I thought, a private banker, what would be the secret he would never tell anybody? And I thought, well, suppose his father was a serial killer. And then I thought, well, what would make him a really famous serial killer, like Charlie Manson? And I thought, well, suppose he took photographs of his victims as their dismembered bodies and composed them, and they were so artfully done that people studied them in universities. So I was going there and I thought, well, I wonder if people have done that before. And Harvey Glattman did take pictures of his victims. He killed women in the 50s. And then I discovered there's this whole murderabilia market where, John Wayne Gacy, Charlie Manson, a lot of famous killers that produced artwork that's sold all over the web. So that became a part of the book. And then, of course, obviously the story about my protagonist's father he was the most famous of all because his photographs were everywhere. And originally the book was called The Dark Room. But when my publishers saw the term murderabilia and they just loved it, so they made that the title of the book. And it is a great word.
Oh, it's a brilliant word. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of it before looking at your work.
Never heard of it?
No.
Oh, well, if you really want to be creeped out, Google it.
Okay. Do they make much money doing selling these things, these works of art? Is there a market there?
Here's the thing. Yeah, there is a market, huge one.
It must be.
Yeah, but the artists themselves, the criminals in jail, don't make much money. It's the collectors, and some have compared the collectors to like child abusers in terms of they nurture the criminals in jail. Oh, wouldn't you like to be famous? Oh, wouldn't you like to get more money in the commissary? Oh, wouldn't you like everyone to talk about you? And then they will get these works for virtually nothing and resell them for all kinds of money. I saw an ad from one of these collectors for John Wayne Gacy, who was a serial killer back in Chicago in the 70s, I think. And he killed all these boys and buried them in the crawl spaces of his house. He produced all kinds of paintings. And one of them was a painting of his house with the crawl spaces, and they had it listed for $175,000.
What? Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I heard another story. I mean, you talk to these collectors and they say, yeah, we're just normal people. We just this is our hobby. And one of them told a story about a woman had come in and she'd bought a Gacy painting, and it was for her 12-year-old son's birthday.
What?
Yeah.
Seriously weird.
Seriously weird. Yeah. I mean, that kid is going to be paying lots of money to therapy, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much research? Obviously, what you just described, that is research. Did you spend a lot of time? Did you sit in local libraries? Were you using Google? What was your sources for your research?
I did a lot of Google, and of course, I researched a lot the children of serial killers.
Okay.
Because, and I read some books, a lot. I would just copy articles and just follow them. I mean, there's all kinds of entries for Murderabilia, and there are all kinds of entries for children of serial killers. So, including, let's see, Carrie Rawson, who, let's see, no, it was the, what was her name? The son of the the daughter of the Happy Face killer. She wrote a book, and just a tragic book, which I wrote. And then Carrie Rawson was the daughter of BTK, Bind, Torture and Kill, Dennis Rader, the serial killer in Kansas. And she's been all over the news and on TV. And some people compare it to like PTSD when you find out your father's a serial killer.
Yeah.
For instance, Carrie Rawson, she had no idea. She would camp with her father. She'd have ice cream with him. She'd pray together. He walked her down the aisle for her marriage. And then one day an FBI agent shows up at her door and says, he's BTK, the famous serial killer. It was as if her whole life was a lie.
Wow.
And and this is the part that really fascinated me, and I tried to delve into in the book as much as I could, of, how do you reconcile yourself with when you find that out? Because it can destroy your life. For the question that always occurred to me was, here's the father, and how could you love a man that did all those terrible things? How do you reconcile that contradiction? And there's some famous people like Charlie Manson had 3 sons, three different mothers. One of the sons committed suicide. The other son just came out and said, talked about how he was bullied in school because of that, and that he thought the stories about his father were far-fetched, that they really weren't being fair to his father. And then the third son changed his name. Nobody knows who he is or where he is. And that's probably the way to do it. The West, where you are.
Fred West.
Yes, Fred West.
Oh, yeah.
Killed himself, didn't he, in jail before he was taken to trial?
I don't recall. And maybe he did. Yeah. And I think his wife just died.
Yeah.
But, their children have come out, right? And told stories about how, well, first of all, he killed and buried one of his daughters in his patio in the backyard. But one of the other daughters and the sons came out and said, yeah, their parents would lock them in the basement and they'd hear the sounds of these murders going on upstairs. Yeah. Yeah.
Chilling. Very chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's another one, Mikhail Popkov in Russia, and he killed over 50 people. And his daughter has come out, and she says, well, it was all a setup. It never really happened. So 50 people. So you can see the inclination that no, my father couldn't be this. My father couldn't be this. Can't be this. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be in denial. I can understand that. You just won't believe it, will you? It must be very difficult to take on board, and what a shock to your system,
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I thought that the whole denial is something that plays out in my book, being kind of what Christian Science is, that you deny that evil exists. And in that way, the mother of my protagonist, who's married to the serial killer, she has the perfect religion. She's fundamentalist, and evil does not exist. I will not admit that evil exists. I will never talk about the evil that their father did. So So it kind of destroyed her children's upbringing because they could never process it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it kind of saved them because she would never admit that evil was any part of their lives.
And this is where you say about the perfect religion for is Christian Science for the wife of a serial killer, isn't it? That's where that fits. Yeah, because they're not going to believe that he. Oh my word!
Well, and there's and there's also one of my favorite parts of the book is where his sister is suffering from asthma, and to him, he's 7 years old at the time. It looks like she's going to die. And the mother refuses to take her to the doctor. And the father says she has the keys, and the wife won't give him the keys so he can take her to the doctor. And so you, the protagonist, are the only one that can convince her to do that. And, you see this conflict playing out where both are manipulating this poor boy. And so on the one hand, the mother is saying that sickness, asthma, is only a false conception. It's a metaphor for what you believe in your mind. And the father, in the same sense, followed the same thinking when he said, when he makes the bodies of his victims be metaphors for what he's thinking in his mind.
Carl, I've read the sort of a teaser, the short story. It's freely available on Amazon, double wide. It gives us an introduction to the sister suffering from asthma. Can I just ask, this sounds out the blue, what's a double wide? I think I know it by looking at images, but for someone who doesn't know from the UK, what is a double wide? What does it mean?
It's a trailer that's permanently stationed, so it doesn't have the wheels. Yeah, it's a double wide trailer.
Okay, I was thinking it was twice the size for some reason, or twice the size.
Well, it's a bigger one. It's a bigger one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I believe your first publisher went out of business. What happened? Did they just go out of business and then you had to start again and find a new publisher? How did you go about getting a new publisher? Was it difficult? Because I know it's bad enough in the first place to get anyone to accept your books, isn't it? And to get one published, and then you've had to lose one. And so how did that go? Tell us a bit about that.
Well, can I tell you about the whole publishing process?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. I mean, it was an odyssey. First of all, I thought I have to get an agent. So I went to writing conferences, and I met up with a woman named Jacqueline Michard, who wrote a book called Deep End of the Ocean. It was the first Oprah selection book. And she had a con artist that stole all her money. So she was a freelance editor now, and she helped me with the book. I really learned a lot from her with the book. And so she introduced me to an agent who said he loved the book. And he had his readers read it, and we went back and forth doing revisions every 3 months. It'd take him 3 months to respond. We went like this for a year. And then he told me, no, I don't think I'm the right agent for you. Never submitted it to any publisher. So then I had to find another agent. I thought, well, the first thing I had better do is learn how to pitch a book. So I went to a conference in New York, the Algonquin Writers Conference, which is just on learning how to pitch your book. It's amazing. Most writers are really bad at this.
Yeah.
But they, helped me funnel it down to a couple of paragraphs and a single elevator sentence, right, for the book. So I thought, New York for 3 days, and this is what I got. Whoa. But anyway, so then I went to a writers' conference in San Francisco, and we're all in one of these networking sessions, right? Where there are agents and acquisitions editors and all these wannabe writers like me trying to find them. We're all standing around trying to find our moment when we can get the attention of an agent or an acquisitions editor. And this agent turns to me and she says, all right, describe to me in one sentence what your book is about. I thought, well, I have it. So I used my sentence, and at the end of the sentence, she and the acquisitions editor said, whoa. So I mean, that's like a trophy for a writer,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like everything you dream about, right? Yeah. So she became my agent.
What was the sentence, Carl? Was that? You coming to that? Yeah, sorry, you're building up to that. You're building up to it. I'll shut up.
Well, I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, come
on. A banker for the very wealthy has his life torn apart when he's accused of being a serial killer, like his father.
Ooh, yeah.
The ending is the punch, right? The ending is the punch. Yeah. So she became my agent, and then we went out to a lot of publishers, and we found Midnight Inc., who finally decided to publish. And then 2 or 3 months after we signed the contract, their parents said, by the way, we're closing the doors for this imprint. We're no longer going to publish mysteries. So we thought,
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
What do we do? Do we start pitching it again? I didn't want to spend a year pitching it to, other publishers. So Midnight Inc. promised to support all their authors for the next year. So we kept it there. They were okay, but they didn't give a lot of support to the book. So then, I got all the rights back, and Eva Lancaster, I think you all know her. I heard about her.
Yeah, Khaleesi Services.
Yes, that's right, Khaleesi. And I heard about her from another author, and so she helped me reformat the book. She designed a new cover for it. So it's on Amazon now. So we've been at it for about 3 months now, and she's great at graphics, and she's doing all kinds of marketing for it. So that's where it is. And meanwhile, I've got another book in submission, and I'm working on a third one. So,
yeah, that was another question I was coming on to. Have you got a part 2, part 3 in the pipeline? But yeah, you obviously have.
No, well, not to Murderabilia.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
All my books take place in the financial industry, but the next book doesn't have anything to do with Murderabilia. So it's about 2 estranged parents who become involved in money laundering in order to save their delinquent teenage son. So, and then the third book is, which I'm working on, also in the financial industry, but it's got a different theme, different characters. So, yeah.
So is that taking up most of your time now, writing? Are you doing any banking at all, or are you just? No.
I kind of dropped banking a few years ago and dedicated everything to writing at this point. And fortunately, my wife still is at University of California, so we have healthcare from that, and she still has a good salary, so we're okay. Because you certainly don't become rich from writing.
Yep, I'll agree to that. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to get to about 100 books. Don't you? Oh no, I don't know. Just
it
must be difficult.
And I'm not that fast of a writer. I mean, I do a lot of revision. I mean, Murderabilia I revised more than 20 times. And so which makes me not put out that many books. So, I mean, here's my theory of editing, if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
So I think there are 5 parts to editing a scene. So the first part is you write the scene and it's okay. So you edit it again and you think, well, it's not bad. Third time you edit it, you think, well, if I can just sustain this is going to be really good. The fourth time is, there are prizes for writing this good. And the fifth stage, I bet you can guess, it's crap.
Yeah. It's the perfect circle. Carl, your books, this Murderabilia, that you've won awards for this novel. So it clearly wasn't crap, by the time you'd finished editing. Was that the 6th step that it became award-winning?
Yeah. That was a little more like the 21st step. And that's the other thing about editing. When I went through the first agent, after a while the revisions make it worse. So there's it's really hard for an author to tell when you're done and when you're making it worse rather than making it better. So I actually, after he dropped me, I revised it again and fixed some more problems. Then it was actually better by the time it got published. So
you know, Carl, I've got one novel out, published about 4 years ago. I'm still editing that now, even though it's been published on Amazon 3 years ago. But
really?
Occasionally, I don't know, someone will point out a typo on page 132. There should be a full stop instead of a comma. So I'm still putting little tiny edits on there. So I think a lot of writers find it difficult, if not impossible, to let go. You know, especially with the first novel.
Yeah. Well, then you keep finding mistakes.
Or ways to improve.
Oh God. Yeah, you always find that. But even in Murderabilia, the first edition, I made a mistake. I had a reference to the disciples of Jesus, and I had 13 disciples. So we corrected that when Eva helped me put out the next edition. And then I was in a writers group, and the head of the writers group had Carolyn Wheat. She had a lot of books published, and she's kind of an icon in mystery novels in San Diego. And she looks at the first paragraph of the book, and it starts out with I manage secrets. And she says, you should have put that in a separate paragraph. First line of the book.
Oh dear. That sounds like a great start to me. I manage secrets. You want to know, it opens up all kinds of questions you want answers for.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
You mentioned then writers groups. You're president of the Sisters in Crime chapters.
Yes.
Regular Zoom meetings.
We're doing Zoom meetings, and let me tell you a little bit about that.
Sure.
Sisters in Crime was founded many years ago to promote women writers of crime fiction and nonfiction, but now obviously there are a lot of male writers as well. And it's a national organization. It's actually international. Over 4,000 members and 60 chapters, including a chapter in London called Once Upon a Crime. Yeah. So, and I'm president of the San Diego chapter, and so we put on Zoom events now. We're going to start to do more in-person events after COVID finally subsides. We hope. So it's a great organization.
Okay.
And we interview, all kinds of authors. Like in March, in January, we had a person that is an expert on drug sniffing dogs. In March, we're having the poison lady.
Wow.
So she's going to talk about arsenic.
Must be very interesting though, finding out all this stuff. It must be fascinating.
Oh yeah, we had an international one. Well, I don't know if you know the author Andrea Carter. She's an Irish author. In Inishowen series, Inishowen, I guess is the way you pronounce it. And she was on one of our podcasts too. So it was Mysteries Across the Pond. So we had somebody from San Diego and somebody from Ireland and talking about the differences.
Wow. So I mean, your book Memorabilia sounds great to me. So have you had anybody from say TV or Netflix perhaps, or even Hollywood approach you about writing it up to a film or anything like that? Nothing?
I have not. And unfortunately, a few months after it came out, there was a TV series that came out, The Prodigal Son, which is about the son of a serial killer. So it's and I don't know. Anyway, my concept was been going on for years, and in Hollywood they'll steal from anybody, so you just never know.
That's
but it's a much more absurdist kind of tone than my book. My book's very much into what happens to these poor children.
I've spoken to another writer. He was telling me that he had a deal with a film company, a television company in the UK. And he said quite often, if a company is running a project on a particular theme, particular genre, quite often they'll go in, they'll buy another writer's film rights just to stop them getting produced, before or after or near the same time.
Yeah. Wow.
Great in one sense. Making money.
You make some money, yeah.
Yeah, you make some money, but 90% of the film rights bought never get produced. So, and Michael Connolly had to buy back his film rights in order to make his series.
I didn't know that. I've got a whole shelf full of Michael Connolly books. That was a question that I had for you. Who do you read in a similar genre? Is it Michael Connolly?
Yeah, I read some Michael Connolly. He's more procedural than I am. And I tend to like particular books a lot, like Winter's Bone, Daniel Woodrell is just a wonderful book. Or Mystic River, another great book. Adrian McKinty, another Irish writer. The Dead Yard is a terrific book. Let's see. All the Pretty Horses, Laura Lippman, Sunburn, I read her. So I read kind of a whole range of things. Nelson DeMille, The Gold Coast, just a hilarious book. Amor Towell's Rules of Civility is another great book. John le Carré, wow. Graham Greene, a lot of people, even Thomas Harris. I think of the Lambs is a brilliant book.
Hannibal Lecter. That was one of the first books that actually scared me. It said on the cover, "This book will scare you," and it did. Pardon me, friends, but I shit myself one night. my wife was in hospital having our third son, Alex. And I went round and locked every window twice. I locked the back door, every door I could find to lock. That was scary. One scary novel.
Scary book, that. Yeah, it's good. I really enjoyed that. Yeah,
that's it. There's a scene in that book that you could study for how to communicate emotion. The FBI agent whose wife is dying of cancer. No, not her, but her boss. His wife is dying of cancer, and all it describes is the living room and the way he set up her bed, and you can just feel how much he loves her. Never mentions love once, but you just feel it, and it's funny. There's a book. With Hannibal Lecter, and it's perfect. Yeah.
Agent Crawford, is that? Or is it? No, he's the guy who does he's got the psychic ability.
Crawford.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Crawford rings a bell. Yeah. I think it could be him.
Crawford. Yeah. So.
Speaking of serial killers, when you did your research for your book, did you speak to any serial killers at all? Did you go to maybe prisons or visit these people? I just out of interest, I was wondering how you felt and how they came across to you, and did they chill you to the bone or scare you or anything like that?
That's an interesting question. Well, in terms of jails, I didn't know anything about jails, but it's surprising how forthcoming the administrative people are at jails. So I called up the San Diego jail and talked to a person there for 45 minutes.
Wow.
And I took 12 pages of notes. He's telling me what the cells look like, what the procedures are to get into it. So, a lot of visual tale. For instance, when he told me that the water fountain was connected to the toilet, I just thought,
what?
Whoa, there's a detail.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, nice image.
Yeah. And I had a friend who was a public defender, and he helped me with some of the legal aspects. Now, as for the serial killers, I read a good deal about serial killers and about psychopaths and sociopaths because I had to come up with an appropriate background for it. I never talked to any, but read a great deal about it. And, the more you read, at first it kind of chills you to the bone, and then you get kind of numb to it. And you tell this stuff to people, and they go, "Whoa!" And you go, "Oh, really? Well, this is a family story." And so sometimes you wanted to just take a shower afterwards. But thankfully that's kind of behind me.
Fair comment. Yeah. Just wondered whether I thought it'd be quite scary to actually go face to face with some of these guys and have to come away and then you're looking over your shoulder almost, even though they're locked up. I don't know. I just get the impression it would be quite scary.
Well, what's even more scary is some of these people come across as so normal. Like they're the Ted Bundy tapes. I haven't actually looked at these, but I've seen some excerpts from it, and he's just he seems like a nice guy.
Have you seen that Netflix series, Mindhunters? It's about the FBI profilers, the first 2 seasons. My son recommended that, but I watched them in the wrong order. I think I watched episode 10 first, So I was a bit confused. But that's quite chilling.
Yeah, it is quite chilling. Yeah. And then my mind automatically goes to, I mean, suppose you were a friend with that guy, or part of his family. I mean, oh my God. Yeah, your whole life would be different.
Carl, can I ask you a question that I enjoy asking all writers?
Sure.
In Murderabilia, or the two works in progress you have at the moment, do your characters come alive and do things that you've not got down in your bullet points? So they go off in a certain direction? Do they do things that are unexpected?
No, I do a lot of outlining, and then of course, then the characters or the scene or an idea takes off, and you veer from the outline itself. And in the outline, I'm trying to get plot points, but I'm also trying to get emotional points. What is the third rail that's driving your character, and how does this scene relate to that? Third rail, I mean this underlying wound, emotional need, this idea of this is what he needs, but it's not really what he needs. I think those are what make great stories, aside from the crime element. And so my outlines are having more of that as well. But so I do both.
Okay.
I do both, and the process, I write scenes. So the way I do the scenes is that I've got a point of this is what the scene is going to be about. Sometimes I don't even know what the ending is of that scene, but I will write by hand on a legal pad of paper because I'm more free when I write by hand. And I love the feeling where your characters are talking and you can't keep up with them. You're just trying to catch up with what they're going to say.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of a first draft. And there'll be all kinds of holes in it. And maybe the scene really starts on page 3, or paragraph 3. So you just bother typing that into the computer, and you fill in like beats and setting and physical details, senses, as you do that first draft into the computer. Yeah. That's kind of the way I work. When I have 4 or 5 pages of hand, I always have this sigh of relief because it's a scene. I think it'll work as a scene,
Yeah.
There's a lot of writers will get writer's block, and they'll edit as they write, and it really slows them down. And I've even gone to writers instructors who will say, okay, here's a scene. You have 5 minutes or you have 10 minutes to write it, just write. And that blocks out the editorial process because, I did Nanowrimo for the first time in November. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
It's worldwide.
Yep.
Yeah. So, this is where writers from around the world are trying to write 50,000 words in 1 month. Yep. I've never written anything like that output in 1 month. And I wrote 58,000 words.
Wow. Yeah.
So, it was incredibly good writing.
Yeah, I can imagine. Maybe not. The cat sat on the mat and the mat was great.
Yeah. How do you find your best way to market your books? Or, you use social media and as well as your publishers, obviously, but there's that outlet there, isn't it? Twitter and Facebook, I suppose. Do you use that a lot?
I'm still not as good as I can or could be. There's always more you can do in social media. And so, I have people like Eva help me. But I'm active on Facebook. I have a Twitter account. I'm somewhat active there. Instagram, I'm more active. I have a newsletter. And those are and of course my webpage.
Yeah.
So, but it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. What I'll do, Carl, I'll put links to your webpage and to. Can you just tell us exactly where people can buy the books from? Is it from Amazon or from your website as well?
No, buy it from Amazon.
Okay.
So it's a print-on-demand book and plus a Kindle edition. Mm-hmm. So, and you can also get the 2 short stories. Another one is just being published as we speak.
Okay.
Called Hiding from the Devil. And it's about the protagonist as a young boy when they hide out after their father has been arrested and when he learns that his father is a serial killer.
Okay, so is that a follow-up then to Double Wide? The same?
Yes.
About the,
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. And then next month I'm going to publish a brand new short story I just wrote a month ago, which is, totally unrelated, more in the banking industry. So.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I think time's caught up with us. But it's been a real pleasure chatting with you, Carl.
That's been fun.
That's flown by, yeah. It has. That's really flown by, yeah. 40 minutes or so now, yeah.
Wow. We know it's good when that happens. You look at the clock. And
yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, anytime.
All right, brilliant. Yeah, well, let's keep in touch as we have been.
Okay.
And best of luck. Maybe have another chat when the next novel comes along.
That'd be great. And I wish you luck on your next book. I hope the next book is coming out, Terry.
Do you know what? I need to kick up the backside. I really do.
Yeah, and I think you need. That's what I was asking about social marketing and how you do yours. Because I think Terry, did you struggle a bit? You did some stuff on Twitter, and I don't know what else you did yours on.
To be honest, the book was out before I had a Twitter account, but it's mainly Facebook. I found Facebook get more sales through the different local groups within Facebook. There's a Chillwall group, a local Liverpool history group.
Yeah. Well, and there are also writers' conferences all over, and you can sell a few books there. But in terms of cost effectiveness, it's not high.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, great. It's been brilliant chatting with you, and
it's been great talking with you, Terry, and you, Steve.
Thank you very much for your time. Yeah, we enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right.
Take care.
Okay. You too.
Cheers, Carl.
Thank you.
Cheers.